Talk to us about, it's interesting listening to GM there saying autonomous driving, driverless cars will actually start through subscription, will start through sharing of driving. Do you believe the same?
I think that each of the auto manufacturers is trying to get into the services business. So they're looking at Uber, they're looking at how much traffic goes through Uber, and they're looking for ways in which they can be in that business, in which they can have ongoing revenue streams. But, you know, technology usually follows progressions. And the automobile manufacturers have a lot to do before they get to self-driving cars. For example, improving the experience inside the car. And that's why we see the integrations that are announced with Microsoft putting its Cortana into cars like Nissan and Renault. I think the second is electric cars. And I think that as much as the car manufacturers talk about autonomous vehicles, they'll be much farther down the road.
Yeah, when we spoke to Peggy Johnson of Microsoft, she herself at CES was saying it'll be connected vehicles that dominate by 2020. But when do you see autonomous, driverless cars really taking to the streets in a wide-ranging way?
I think they're going to be waves. It's likely to begin in major cities where roads are well-defined. And I think that we're really more like 10 years out before we see this practically on every highway.
So are car companies spending in the right way at the moment, Michael? It's interesting when you look over in Europe, you're looking at some of the German manufacturers. Volkswagen has been ploughing money into Get, which is an Uber rival, 300 million there. You saw Daimler buying the likes of MyTaxi. Is it these sorts of purchases in startups? Are they spending money wisely? No,
they're not. What they're ending up doing is they're ending up fragmenting the market. They're ending up trying to compete with Uber, which in a lot of ways is a fool's errand. Uber has a very strong share in the market, and so they're better off partnering with Uber and any of the other Lyft and other ride-sharing services that are at scale versus trying to build their own.
And when it comes to the likes of Apple and Google, we've seen some of the auto giants really wary of partnering them, worried about who owns the data. Who, in your mind's eye, is the winner?
Well, I mean, each of these smart agents, the voice-activated assistants, are going to be in different cars. And so we've got Microsoft Cortana that's doing some deals. We expect to see Alexa in a number of cars. And, of course, there'll be Siri in a number of cars. So what's going to change is that people are going to get used to interacting with their car in the same way that they may be interacting with their Amazon Echo at home. And all three of the major tech companies, as well as others, are going to be involved.
When you look at it from an investment point of view, is there startups that you want to be plowing money into that could be winning out from this building of an ecosystem when it comes to driverless vehicles?
There are lots of startups around the space, and most likely what they're going to be doing is producing pieces of technology, middleware that will be integrated into the car. It's not likely that we're going to see a car company standing up an entirely new car company that's going to do its own autonomous vehicles.
And what about US versus Europe versus Asia? I mean, are there other regional winners here? We seem to very much focus on Silicon Valley and Detroit.
You have to expect that each one of the major international car makers is going to focus on the same things. They're going to focus on ways in which they can try to be on autonomous vehicles. But at the same time, they're also going to be looking at those other things, electric cars, a better experience within the car. And in some ways, they're going to let the U.S. companies, they're going to let the U.S. companies get arrows in their back in the same way that pioneers do, and they can be fast followers versus throwing so much investment money out in front of this.